Good afternoon. I'll call this meeting of Stratford City Council to order. We'll begin this afternoon's meeting with a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. I'll turn the meeting over to the clerk.
For your worship, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof.
Seeing none.
Item 3 is adoption of the minutes, and there is a recommendation that the minutes of the regular meeting of council of the corporation of the city of Stratford dated March 22nd be adopted as printed.
Moved by Councillor Henderson, second by Councillor Bunting. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried.
Item 4 is adoption of the addenda, and just prior to today's meeting, an addenda was circulated to add item 5.4, 11.10, 11.11, and 11.12.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Gaffney, seconded by Councillor Vasilakos. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried.
Item 5 is report of the Committee of the Whole in camera session, and item 5.1 from the March 22nd session of the Municipal Act as amended, a matter concerning the following item was considered. And that was committee chair and vice chair appointments, which relates to personal matters about identifiable individuals. And there is a motion that Councillor Gaffney be appointed the chair of the Finance and Labor Relations Subcommittee and Committee, that Councillor Clifford be appointed the vice chair of the Finance and Labor Relations Subcommittee and Committee, that Councillor Ritzma be appointed the chair of the Planning and Heritage Subcommittee and Committee, that Councillor Ingram be appointed the vice chair of the Planning and Heritage Subcommittee and Committee, and that these appointments be for the remainder of the 4-year term to November 14th, 2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Beattie, seconded by Councillor Burback. Thank you. Discussion? If not, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried.
Item 5.2, at the April 7 session under the Municipal Act as amended, a matter concerning the following item was considered. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees or local board employees, and at the in-camera session, direction was given. Item 5.3, at the April 12, 2021 session under the Municipal Act as amended, matters concerning the following items were considered. The first being litigation or potential litigation and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, and a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, a matter relating to personal matters about identifiable individuals, and then a third matter relating to personal matters. At the in-camera session, direction was given on all 3 items.
Thank you.
Turning to your addenda, item 5.4 from the April 12th session, a matter concerning the following item was considered, and that's appointment to the Stratford City Centre Business Improvement Area Board of Directors. And there is a motion that Sean Malvern be appointed as a citizen representative to the Stratford City Centre Business Improvement Area Board of Directors for the remainder of the 4-year term to November 14th, 2022, or until successors are appointed.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram and Councillor Ritzma moving in second. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried.
Turning back to your agenda, item 6 is hearings of deputations and presentations, and item 6.1 is a presentation by Jesse Votary. Ms. Votary will be requesting that council permit a restaurant to service a patio across the roadway other than Ontario and Erie Streets in the event they do not have parking spaces adjacent to their property for the 2021 patio season. And there is a motion that the presentation by Jesse Votary be heard.
Moved by Councillor Burback, seconded by Councillor Henderson that Ms. Votary be heard. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried.
Ms. Votary, can
Hello.
you hear us?
I can, thank you. Hello. I apologize. This presentation is it's really just a couple of questions. We have a unique scenario where we have a group of owners that have 2 restaurants located directly across Wellington Street from each other. We have applied for a pop-up patio permit for the Red Rabbit located at 64 Wellington Street. And in that application, we submitted a request to share the patio at separate times with our restaurant, Old Man and Son, located at 75 Wellington Street. Wellington Street obviously is unique in that there's only parking on one side. And so Old Man and Son has no adjacent parking available to it, and the patio options basically are non-existent because of the width of the sidewalk and the lack of parking spaces. It was expressed to us by the city clerk's office that it would be unsafe for our staff to cross Wellington Street. And my question relates, I guess, to the alfresco dining project and how the level of safety was considered for that project. My understanding is that the alfresco dining has 3 locations, one in Market Square, one on Tom Patterson Island, and the other in the, the Memorial Gardens. And my question, I guess, or statement more so, is that there is a significant lack of adjacent food and beverage to all 3 of those locations. So my question, and I guess my request, is that someone put forward a motion to allow the businesses in our downtown the same leeway that the city is asking for in their alfresco project, to have people cross the street with food and beverage.
Anyone wishing to make that motion? Or I guess beforehand, I'd ask the clerk or the deputy clerk if they have anything they'd like to add before that motion goes forward.
Through your worship, just further to the motion that was asked by the delegate, staff would ask that council consider specifying the wording of the motion to apply only to this location or to these 2 restaurants, given their unique situation with the 2 businesses being across the street from each other. If the motion were to be expanded to others, there would be difficult situations whereby businesses could then, without adjacent parking in front of them, perhaps seek patio down the road from them, and use parking spaces perhaps where a patio isn't going. And that's something that staff would like to avoid.
Members of council wishing to, Councillor Henderson and then Councillor Burback, Councillor Clifford.
Well, you raise a good point, Chris, because I think it was Pazzo was, they weren't allowed to have something out the front because of the fire hydrant. So if we pass something like this, they could come back then and they would maybe want to move their patio a couple of parking spots down. Is that my understanding what you're talking about? Like they're talking about, I don't know, and like I'm trying to think how we can do this fairly so that everybody has a chance to have the restaurants there, and then they can have the patio by there, and if they don't have any parking spots in front, then they can move across the road. But I'm not sure how that can work out, sorry.
Councillor Burback, then Councillor Clifford, then Councillor Vasilakos.
Thank you. Actually, I had a question for Ms. Votary, if she's still on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
I'm here.
I'm just curious about your plans. Would you be servicing the patio across the street, or you would allow customers to purchase at Old Man and Son and then take their food across the street to sit at the patio? Like, I'm not quite clear on what the plan is.
Absolutely. Our preferred intention would be to service the patio. Our staff are insured. They are willing to wear reflective vests if that is what is required. They're willing to adhere to a variety of safety requirements, but they would like to make it possible with our reduced number of seats inside the property to be able to service the actual patio across the street in the morning, as it then allows us to keep additional staff employed.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Clifford, then Councillor Vasilakos, and then Councillor Seven.
Yeah, I had the same question as Councillor Purback. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Vasilakos.
I had a similar question around insurance and whether that would mean staff would then have to go down and cross at the lights and back up, or whether they, like, do we allow mid-block crossings that then the insurance would cover? Those kinds of things. I'd like to know that those are sort of in place before, you know, we approve something like this.
I'm not sure whether staff have any information. I know our insurers probably don't condone that, but I'll leave it to Ms. Bantock or Ms. Defoe.
For Your Worship, as noted, this item was not permitted as part of our patio program for 2021 in our guidelines. It was strictly prohibited, and that was in consultation with legal counsel and the insurers. There is a significant risk with this proposal, especially if there are mid-block crossings. There is quite a big difference between members of the public purchasing takeout and going wherever they want with it versus an employee then crossing a road to serve alcohol. With respect to al fresco, the only difference is people can now consume food or liquor in the space, but we do not permit restaurants to serve food or liquor in the actual spaces for the al fresco location. So I don't have a clear answer for you, but there definitely would be some considerations that would need to be made for safety and what exactly would be permitted.
Thank you. Councillor Seven, then Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. So I do have, I guess I would like a little more information and a bit of time to sort of process exactly what the specifics would be. Ideally, I don't want to see it dragged out too long at all, but because like questions like, would this open up al fresco then to potentially being used as a patio for the surrounding businesses, things like that. I just have a lot of questions at this point. I don't think I fall really either way at this point, but I'd prefer some more time to hear for staff and restaurant owners as well, for people to, I guess, provide more information.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Burback, or sorry, Councillor Henderson and Councillor Burback.
I don't know if this is possible, but you know, sometimes when a store downtown is having construction, they may have to block off part of the road for sometimes several months, depending how long the construction is. I would feel more comfortable if it was possible that we would be able to do more of a road closure for 2 parking spots in front of the restaurant, in front of their restaurant. I totally don't feel comfortable at having staff, you know, basically having to carry food and go back and forth with their orders across the road. I feel it's a long walk for them. You have to go up and down the stairs, bring the food out, go across the road, and traffic can be quite heavy in that section of Wellington. Is that possible to do something like that instead?
Ms. Votary, do you have an opinion on that?
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I apologize. I think that at that particular area of Wellington, there's also, I believe, there's something going to council in relationship to items that were delivered to the folks on Wellington about moving it to one-way street, which I think would significantly reduce the traffic in that area. I think that it adds additional complication, particularly with that part of the street, to take up the laneway itself, the traffic lane is not wide enough to accommodate a patio or parking, as well as having the traffic flow continue. So I think that adds additional complication. I think our request obviously is very unique, as we do own both properties. We have staff that work at both properties. We do cross the street quite regularly all day. We find it to be quite manageable. I myself tend to go back and forth between the properties at least a dozen times a day without any issue. I also think that, again, I understand the lack of liability when guests can take their food and beverage where they would like, but the city is genuinely encouraging people to cross the street at places where there are not crosswalks, to attend different places to eat and drink. So I understand there might be a liability issue. I'm not asking the city to take on liability for us. We are willing to work that out with our insurance company.
Thanks, Ms. Votary. I will say I don't know of anywhere where the city's encouraged people to not use the crosswalks that are on Wellington Street. So I would correct that for the record. I'm not sure we've ever told anyone to cut mid-block to get to alfresco dining. Councillor Henderson.
Hey, Jesse, I see you're still here, so this is a good time to ask this question. So you're saying you cross the road like several dozen times a day. Are you carrying food and drinks or just going back and forth to see how, to make sure business is working okay?
I carry, a variety of things. I don't service food back and forth for anyone but myself. But certainly I carry paperwork, computers, beverages for myself. I'm capable of certainly crossing the street with a variety of items in tow.
Anything further? Councillor Burback.
Yeah, a couple of things. I'm just wondering, is this something that staff could take back and have a look at, and then get back to us to see whether it's viable? The other thing I would note is that the city of Stratford doesn't have a jaywalking bylaw, so there wouldn't be any breaking of bylaws in that regard.
All right, are you asking for a referral motion?
Yes, please.
Seconder for that? There's no seconder. Councillor Gaffney, did you want to second that?
Yes, Your Worship.
All right, it's a referral motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion's defeated. All right. Anything further? Councillor Ingram.
Thank you. I'd like to move that we approve the request for this specific instance with this specific restaurant.
Seconder for that. Councillor Burback. Councillor Vasilakos.
Could we modify that to say that provided we get a clearance, provided there's clearance from our insurer, that's something that can be done? And also, I don't know the rules around if there's liquor going to be carried across the road, whether there are any rules about that. So I think that the only way I could support it is if we were sure that the liability and the legalities around it were appropriate.
Councillor Seven, then Councillor Clifford.
Yeah, so further to that, I think that is, those are good points that we need. I just think it speaks to how we do need more information before we can decide on this in this very moment. I think I'm always a little hesitant when things are brought up and decided on in the same sort of moment, but I would support a referral for this idea. I'm not opposed to the idea, but I don't feel comfortable approving it right now.
All right, Councillor Clifford.
Yeah, I agree with the last councillor. I think if we approve this and there was an accident, it would always come on us regardless of what, if anyone got hurt. So I understand the predicament they're in, but I think the liability for the city of Stratford is way too high, so I don't support this motion.
Councillor Ingram.
Thank you. Question for Ms. Votary. Do you plan to serve alcohol between Old Man and Son and potentially Polo Morta and this patio?
Absolutely not. We had actually been asked that by the clerk for this delegation. Our request is for food and non-alcoholic beverage only. We have been in touch with the AGCO to clarify the rules, and at this time they have not changed the adjacent requirement. Also, it's a diner, so it's open from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. and does not have a heavy liquor presence, and we are happy to leave that out 100% from the equation.
Thank you.
Councillor
And
Henry.
sorry,
Go ahead.
if I may. And Ms. Votary, if I was to amend my motion to include something related to the city's insurance or insurer signing off on this proposal, would that be satisfactory to you?
Absolutely. And we would be willing, as we have with, we have an easement at the back of our property that is co-insured with the city. We have obviously patios that are co-insured with the city. We are happy to name co-insurance and strike liability requirements from the city for this movement as well with our insurer. So if that helps to make your insurance company more comfortable with the notion, we are happy to take on this liability 100% with our staffing and our own payment.
Thank you. So I'd like to amend my motion to include to the satisfaction of the city's insurer.
Seconder for that today is Councillor Burback agrees. I see Councillor Vasilakos' hand.
And so just for clarity, if our insurer refused to sign off on this, it wouldn't go forward? Like they ultimately have a say on whether they feel comfortable insuring it? Is this what I'm to understand?
Yeah, I would, the intent behind this is that if the city's insurer can work with Ms. Votary and her insurer to come up with some sort of solution, I think that's the most appropriate way to make that happen.
And but that still doesn't answer my question, that if our insurer couldn't come to a way to make it happen, then would this not go ahead? I'm just curious.
Yes, I think that's the intent.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Henderson.
I'm just trying to remember how wide the sidewalk is there. Is there not any way that you could have like tables along, maybe running almost to the corner on your side of the street? Like, have a narrower patio, similar to what I think it was, can't think of the name of the restaurant, at the corner of Ontario and Waterloo Street there.
Features.
What is it? Features, right. So they just ran a narrower strip of tables down the side there. Would that not be a better option to, start at the corner of the driveway and maybe go all the way up to the corner and run single sets of tables along there?
So if I may, the measurement distance from the frontage of the building to the edge of the street does not leave enough space to have tables as well as a 1.5 meter path of travel, especially relating to, there's a very poorly placed lamp post that makes basically the entire measurement impossible, as well as even in the event that we could, it would basically limit us to about 4 seats. Which, as you might imagine, might not help to sufficiently recoup the number of seats that we've lost with the social distancing requirements.
All right, anything further? All right, all in favor of the motion? Opposed, if any? And that motion is defeated. All right, thank you, Ms. Votary.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Through your worship, item 7 is orders of the day, and item 7.1 is a proclamation for Be a Donor Month. Every April, Ontarians celebrate Be a Donor Month, a time in which all Ontarians are encouraged to show their support for organ and tissue donation by registering. And there is a motion that City Council hereby proclaims April 2021 as Be a Donor Month in the City of Stratford.
Councillor Burback, Councillor Vasilakos moving and seconding. Discussion. Not all in favor. Opposed, if any. That's carried. Councillor Seven.
Sorry, I apologize if this is out of order. I just wanted to go back to the last item. Would it be possible to bring the referral motion back again now that the motion to approve it has been defeated? Because I feel like there was no action taken, and I would personally like to see staff look into it and bring it back, but I don't know if that would be out of order or.
Because it's been dealt with, you'd need a reconsideration motion of 8 out of 11 of the members of council voting in favor of it. And one of the people that voted against it would have to move it and one would have to second it.
If I may make that motion, I would make that.
For a motion to reconsider. Seconder. Councillor Gaffney, you're seconding that? Okay. All those in favor of the reconsideration? Opposed, if any? And the reconsideration is defeated. Madam Clerk.
Through your worship, item 7.2 is correspondence from the Emergency Management Ontario, and each year municipalities are required to submit a compliance package to the Emergency Management Ontario to ensure they are in compliance with the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. The email reviewed the documentation submitted and has determined the city was compliant with the EMCPA in 2020, and this is provided for the information of council.
Thank you.
Item 7.3 is a resolution for the Duke Street and Mornington Street road widenings, and there is a staff recommendation that the City of Stratford accepts parts 1 and 13 on Plan 44R-5866 as public highway and dedicate them as forming part of Mornington Street, and that the City of Stratford accept Part 12, Plan 44R-5866 as public highway and dedicate it as forming part of Duke Street.
Thank you. A mover for that recommendation. Councillor Ingram and Councillor Burback. Thank you. Discussion. Not all those in favor. Opposed, if any. That's carried.
Item 7.4 is a resolution regarding the fire safety grant, and there's a staff recommendation that City Council approve the application to the Ontario Fire Marshal to receive $12,300 from the 2021 Government of Ontario Fire Grant Program to offset fire training and or fire prevention programs impacted due to COVID-19, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the agreement.
Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Vasilakos moving and seconding. Discussion. Not all those in favor. Opposed, if any. That's carried.
Item 7.5 is a proclamation for Human Values Day, and there is a motion that City Council hereby proclaims April 24th, 2021 as Human Values Day in the City of Stratford.
Councillor Ingram, seconded by Councillor Bunting. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor. Opposed, if any. And that's carried.
Item 7.6 is a resolution to appoint an acting building inspector, and there's a staff recommendation that council amend bylaw 8-2009 as amended to appoint Grant Schwarzentrooper of RSN Building Consultants as inspectors under the Building Code Act for the City of Stratford commencing April 13th until there is a permanent replacement for the municipal building official 2.
Moved by Councillor Seven, second by Councillor Ritzma. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor. Opposed, if any. That's carried.
Item 7.7 is a resolution regarding the renewal of fire dispatching agreements with Central Huron and Blue Water, and there's a staff recommendation that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute the renewal of the full-time dispatching services agreements with the municipality of Central Huron and the municipality of Blue Water for a further 2-year term to December 31st, 2022.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Henderson, second by Councillor Vasilakos. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor. Opposed, if any. That's carried.
Item 8 is business for which previous notice has been given and there was none scheduled. So moving to item 9, reports of the standing committees. Item 9.1 is a report of the Planning and Heritage Committee. And there is one item listed on the agenda, and that is 9.1.1, draft plan of condominium application 31 CDN 21-001 for 3194 Vivian Line 37.
Moved by Councillor Ritzma, seconded by Councillor Ingram. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor. Opposed, if any. That's carried.
Item 9.2 is report of the Social Services Committee, and there's one item listed, and that's item 9.2.1, a new provincial municipal vision for social assistance.
Moved by Councillor Henderson and second by Councillor Bunting. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried.
Item 10 is notice of intent, and item 10.1 is notice of public meetings under the Planning Act. Stratford City Council will hold public meetings on Monday, April 19th at 6 p.m. to hear all interested persons with respect to the following planning applications. Zone change application Z02-21 for 55 to 65 Lauren Avenue East. Zone change application Z03-21 for 14 Milton Street. Zone change application Z04-21 for 34 Brunswick Street, and further details can be found in the attached notice to the agenda.
Thank you.
Moving to item 11, reading of the bylaws. There are a number of bylaws listed for consideration as follows. Item 11.1, conveyance from Whole Quality Homes of Part 7, Plan 44R-5160. Item 11.2, amendments to Appointments Bylaw 178-2018. Item 11.3, which is transfer payment agreement for the fire safety grant. Item 11.4, conveyance from Wolves of Parts 1 and 13, Plan 44R-5866. 11.5, dedication of Parts 1 and 13, Plan 44R-5866 as public highway. 11.6, conveyance from Wolves of Part 12, Plan 44R-5866. 11.7, dedication of Part 12, Plan 44R-5866 as public highway. And 11.8, appoint inspector under the Building Code Act. And turning to your addenda, there's also items 11.10, which is the fire dispatching agreement with Municipality of Central Huron. Item 11.11, fire dispatching agreement with Municipality of Blue Water. And item 11.12, which is to amend the appointments bylaw. And these bylaws can be taken collectively upon unanimous vote of council present.
Moved by Councillor Vasilakos and seconded by Councillor Ingram that the bylaws be taken collectively. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's unanimous. So we'll go to first and second reading. Councillor Clifford moving, Councillor Beattie seconding. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Third and final reading, Councillor Gaffney and Councillor Henderson. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried.
Item 12 is the consent agenda. Are there any items listed on the consent agenda to be considered by council?
Seeing none, we'll go to new business. Seeing none, we'll take a motion to adjourn for standing committees. Councillor Vasilakos and Councillor Ingram moving and seconding. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. And we'll head to finance, I believe, is listed first.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll call this meeting of the Finance and Labor Relations Committee to order. Item 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none. Subcommittee minutes are attached. Item 4, delegations, none scheduled. Item 5, report of the manager of public works. Item 5.1, purchasing policy exemption for a Viking Civs roller pro truck. Moved by Councillor Bunting, seconded by Councillor Beattie. Any questions or any discussion from the director? Councillor Henderson.
I just wanted to say it sounds like a pretty neat little truck thing. I don't know a lot about stuff like that, but it sounds like it's going to save staff a lot of time and get things done a little bit faster in the city. And good work at researching and finding this unique vehicle.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Item 6, report of the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services. Item 6.1, retaining a consultant for the 2022 Development Charges Bylaw. Moved by Councillor Clifford, seconded by Councillor Ingram. Any questions or any report from the Director? Councillor Clifford.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, is there a timeline on this? Like how long will it take and how often will we have to have a meeting on this?
Through the chair, they're planning to have this all finalized by the end of March of next year. It'll probably be early 2022 that this will be presented to council, but in the meantime, there will be meetings with Invest Stratford, Saba, all parties concerned to receive their input before it comes to council.
Anything else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Item 7, report of the deputy clerk, 7.1, 2020 lottery license activities update. Moved by Councillor Henderson, seconded by Councillor Bunting. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Item 8, for information, just the minutes from the Stratfords of the world. I'll ask for a mover on an adjournment. Councillor Beattie, Councillor Vasilakis. All those in favor? Carried. Thanks, everybody.
Now go to planning and heritage.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Planning and Heritage Committee to order. Item number 2, any disclosures of pecuniary interests? Seeing none. Item 3, subcommittee minutes are attached. Item number 4, delegations, none scheduled. Item 5, report of the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services. 5.1 is the item with regards to the unsolicited proposal for the development of the Erie Street parking lot. Mr. Dolovic, would you like to speak to this item before we entertain a motion?
Yeah, through the chair, just quickly, as noted, it was an unsolicited proposal for the project, outlined what the developer was looking for. I think if it was, if this is something that council's interested in, then really it'd be something where we would, staff's recommendation is that if council wants to go in that direction, that we prepare a request for proposals to invite others. But as part of it, we definitely want to look at what are the objectives of going with this proposal, making sure that we've dealt with all easements. There are some easements across that property, that they're properly dealt with. So we know that what's required for access, these are easement access over the Erie Street parking lot, so that they're all dealt with properly. So if we were to go out to proposals, we would lay out what a developer would have to do, what the city's expectations were, and more or less that the city would be in control of the process and meeting the needs of the city.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Gaffney, I see, or a question, or?
I was going to move the subcommittee recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Councillor Vasilakis? Will you second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you. So that's been moved and seconded. Questioners, Councillor Anderson?
Well, I thought the proposal had some great ideas, having everything downtown like that. You know, I envision, I've been to other cities where you see the parking's on, you know, you drive in underground, you don't even see the parking. And then the main floor is like stores. And then above you have people living. I think the idea is a great concept. And if we're thinking that we'd like to open this up to developers, now is the time to do that before we do all the renovation work on the Erie Street parking lot. There's no sense doing that if we're going to dig it up. And I think we have to make a decision as council of what do we think about that idea of having more people living downtown and more parking in the downtown core area, and the idea that people that live downtown could maybe one level could be all for them so that they could have parking. And I think there's a lot of merit, but I mean, we certainly have to open it up to other bidders and other proposals. I, for one, would like to see it move forward and see where it would go before we spend, I forget how many million it was to fix the Erie Street parking lot.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Clifford, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I also think it's a great idea if we had a RFP for this, and like, if there's interest in the people like the Blows family and the people in that area, because I think it's important to have a vibrant downtown. And when you have people downtown, you have a vibrant downtown. So if there's an interest in the core for that, I would certainly be in favor of it, as Councillor Henderson is too, as was talked by Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Councillor Clifford. Any other comments? Councillor Bunting.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair, to the director. With respect to the amount of work that the city would have to do in order to even start this process, is there any estimate as to, I realize there's boreholes and there's all sorts of other things to be considered. Have we any idea of A, the time, and B, the cost of us exploring this opportunity? I'm not against the overall concept, and I'm not against an RFP going out, but I'd like to know going in how much this is going to be at the end of the day, and it may or may not go.
Through the chair, there'd be a fair bit of staff time involved that we'd have to sit down and look at it a bit more to flesh out what would be required. But as I said, you know, what would be the objectives for the city on this? As noted in their proposal, they weren't looking to pay for the land. They were looking to city to buy the parking, a portion of the parking garage, a significant portion, at considerable cost. And those things all have to be kind of fleshed out as to what does that mean? What does that mean to the parking fund, parking rates, those type of things in order to support something like that. So all that needs to be investigated, and then a report brought back to council if that's where you want to go. There will be some decisions that will have to be made from council's perspective of what you're prepared to accept when moving forward on an RFP. Because when you do that, you know, typically developers are looking for certainty when doing something like this, and you can see some of the things that this proposal was looking for to help with their project. And so to make something viable, the developers need to know what the rules are. It wasn't anything unlike when we sold the former fairground lands, when we tried to just go on the open market at kind of an as is. There wasn't any appetite, and a lot of it. So we had to do some pre-work as a city beforehand on some planning processes, some servicing studies that we did ahead of time in order to get some interest from outside developers. So this could take several months, and we could be into depending on what we need, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, and I'm guessing here on preparing something to an RFP to go out there, and at the same time making sure that council's on board with what they want to see from an RFP.
Councillor Vasilakos.
And my concern with going to an RFP for this particular site, for this particular idea of having underground parking is we're not taking a look at all of the land that we have downtown and where we could put tiered parking or where tiered parking would be appropriate. Underground parking is the most expensive by far. And so without first, even before we get to the RFP stage, we haven't had a discussion about how we're going to develop the rest of the, the rest of the downtown area in terms of the Cooper site and land around there and some of the other vacant lands. So without first stopping and going and backing out a bit and looking at the entire downtown, I don't know that we're in a position to even go down the route of an RFP for this specific piece of property.
Thank you, Councillor Vasilakos. Councillor Ingram, and then Councillor Henderson, please.
The thing I like about this proposal is that it's a mixed-use development, which we have on most of our main streets within the core, but we know we need some affordable and attainable housing, and this could be a very prime site to be able to provide that within the core with some parking, and that's something that we don't have in the core because most of our mixed-use developments do not come with parking. And so that's something that I think we really need to think about with this particular site, because this is one of the only sites we own that could achieve all of those things. It could achieve commercial, residential, affordable, attainable housing, and parking.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Councillor Henderson.
Basically what I kind of wanted to bring up too, because when I was in Victoria that time and looking at the developments near their brownfields by the river, they had, they didn't have the parking garage because they were promoting bicycles and walking. But in the place where people were living, there was millionaire suites, there was RGI suites, there was affordable suites, there was regular suites, and they even had a green roof on the top. Like, I think if we can get developers that are interested and we can work out some kind of deal where, you know, we still get some parking revenue and maybe we have a floor of, I think there's a lot of possibilities here, and I think it's something we should explore. And it's something we should be doing before we rip up the Erie Street parking lot. I mean, you know, we could look at maybe, you know, where the Cooper site is, or the, whatever you call it, the Grand Trunk, maybe having something there. And yes, you could do some housing there, that's true, but I just love the idea of it being downtown, because we have a lot of stores downtown that, you know, we have a lot of local stores that sell, you know, healthy food and meats, and lots of restaurants for takeout. It's close, you know, catching buses, walking down to the river. Like, it's a great location. And if we do it right, and we make sure that there's enough space at the back of it for, you know, stand blows and that they can still get their stocking and that, I think it could be a real win for our city. I mean, there used to be development there at one time. There used to be buildings there, but we definitely have to have parking. But
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. So we have a motion from the subcommittee, a recommendation.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Gaffney.
Just to go along with what Bonnie just said and what Councillor Henderson and Councillor Ingram just said, those same things are some of the things we're looking at the Cooper site. The site concept included affordable housing, on-site parking, and parking, and that'd be a place for a structure. So let's not disregard the fact that we're going to spend a pile of money there coming up, and spending $20 or $25 million to build an underground parking lot in the Erie Street lot may not be the best way of using our resources when we've already got a site that we had planned on doing these exact same things. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Mayor Matheson, do I see your hand?
Yes, I agree with very much what Councillor Gaffney said. We adopted a master plan for the Grand Trunk Community Hub. It showed affordable and public housing on that. It showed apartment style living for that site. It is going to take a sizable amount of money for us to put that project together. And if we're interested in private development, we should try to partner with someone on that site, because it'll advance the overall goal further. The only reason the Erie Street parking lot's being spoken about now is because somebody's come forward and made us an unsolicited proposal. And we shouldn't let them pick the timetable or the process of what we're going to move forward with. I think we should focus and send staff back to say, okay, how do we issue an RFP? How do we do much of what we've talked about doing over at the Cooper site, and then use that momentum to complete our overall master plan? And I think there's a better opportunity for us seeing a community hub come forward when we do that, then we have competing interests for the limited amount of money we have, the limited amount of staff time, and we end up with two half plans and nothing completed.
Thank you, Mayor Matheson. Anything further? So we do have a subcommittee recommendation that the proposal from R. Ritz Architect on behalf of Zan Development Corporation be received and filed. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And I believe that's unanimous.
Can I make a referral motion?
Yes.
I'd like to refer back to staff to look at issuing RFPs for accommodations, housing, public and private and social housing for the Grand Trunk Community Hub project as outlined in the master plan.
And Councillor Henderson, do I see you moving that? Yes, that's a nod. Anything,
sure.
anything further on that item? So there is a referral motion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And once again, that's unanimous. Thank you. Anything before we move on regarding 5.1? We're moving to 6, item 6.1, and that's the presentation And this is for information of the committee. That's the presentation from Mr. Ritz. 6.2 is project updates. And then over to 6.3, the advisory committee outside board minutes are posted there for you. And item number 7, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Bunting, seconded by Councillor Burback. All in favor? And we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will call the Infrastructure, Transportation and Safety Committee to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, item number 3 is the subcommittee minutes. They're there for your information. Item number 4 is delegations. We don't have any scheduled. And item number 5 is report of the Director of Infrastructure and Development Services. And 5.1 was a presentation by Cycle Stratford. And we do have a subcommittee recommendation. I did have a discussion with the clerks about this recommendation, and they wanted a little bit more clarity. There was discussion at subcommittee, but it wasn't captured in the subcommittee recommendation. And so if I may, it's that the petition from Jeff Love with respect to active transportation be referred to the 2022 budget and to the transportation master planning process, but they wanted it to be a little more specific. And so the part of the petition that speaks to financial contributions from capital budget are to be referred to the 2022 budget, and the parts of the petition that are related to the bike and pedestrian master plan and implementation be referred to the transportation master plan process. And so that's a clarification on the subcommittee recommendation. Councillor Burback?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Ingram. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you. Next is item 5.2, and it's the AMO last water and sewer warranty program. And we do have a staff recommendation and subcommittee recommendation as well on that. It moved by Councillor Gaffney, seconded by Councillor Burback. Does anyone have any questions for the director on this piece? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you. Item number 6 is report of the Manager of Environmental Services, and there was the 2020 Water Summary Report. We do have a subcommittee recommendation to receive the report, moved by Councillor Bunting, seconded by Councillor Burback. Any questions or discussion? Councillor Henderson?
I just wanted to thank staff and for all the workers there for keeping our water safe and on track. A good report.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Item number 7 is report of the Manager of Public Works, and item 7.1 is City of Stratford Winter Operations Plan. And so the recommendation is that the Winter Operations Plan be approved by Council. Could I get a moved by Councillor Burback, seconded by Councillor Ritzma? Any discussion on that? It is a new item that we would have a winter operations plan submitted on an annual basis, and I think it's available for the public as well to see what changes there may be or what the plan is for winter maintenance. So I think it's a really great planning and transparency piece for the city. So any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. And then we have item number 8, which is report of the events coordinator, and 8.1 was a request for noise exemption from the noise control bylaw from the Festival Theatre. And there is a recommendation there, moved by Councillor Burback, seconded by Councillor Bunting. Are there any questions on that item? Councillor Seven?
Thank you. Just a comment, just to say that I did reach out to the representative at the festival. I was specifically concerned about the prop firearm and sound effect exemption. And I do feel very satisfied in their response, and they're being conscientious. My concerns were mainly focused around the wildlife in the area and any animals and things that would be affected by the noises going off, but I am satisfied and I do support the exemption. So.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, sorry, the city clerk has a comment, sorry.
Through the chair, my apologies. Is the mover and seconder moving both recommendations? There are two items. So the first motion is that the formal objection to the Festival Theater's noise bylaw exemption request be received. And then the second is the subcommittee recommendation, just seeking clarification.
Yes, and my apologies, the objection came after the subcommittee meeting. So are we moving and seconding both items? If the mover and seconder are amenable to that, yes, then we are moving both those items. So any other comments or questions on that? If not, everyone in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. And everything else on the agenda is for the information of the committee. And so motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Just a point of clarification on the capital project update. Mm-hmm. The second item says footbridge replacement in Upper Queens Park. That footbridge is not in Upper Queens Park. just so nobody is wondering where we have a footbridge in Upper Queens Park. So thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
And I'll move the adjournment, Madam Chair.
Seconded by Councillor Ingram. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, we'll reconvene.
Through your worship, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest made at standing committee to be restated at the reconvene portion?
Seeing none.
The final item is the confirmatory bylaw.
Councillor Seven will move it, seconded by Councillor Burback. Discussion? If not, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Third and final reading of the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Beattie and Councillor Gaffney. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. And a motion to adjourn this afternoon's proceedings. Councillor Bunting and Councillor Ingram. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that's carried. Thank you very much.
Be safe, everyone.